So I guess we can go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, so good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olivia Sellers. I'm one of the clinical dietitians at the UF Health Jacksonville downtown campus. So today I'll be speaking to you all about this week's health and wellness topic, and that is mindful eating. So during this presentation, I'm going to define what mindfulness is, discuss the rules of mental health and eating behaviors, explain the difference between mindful and mindless eating, and demonstrate how to eat mindfully. And then on the last slide, there's a QR code for you guys to scan so that you can get your points for coming to today's presentation. So first of all, what is mindfulness? According to the English Oxford Dictionary, the definition for mindfulness is a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So as you may already know, mental health plays a large role in our eating behaviors. According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, people tend to eat too little or eat too much when we're feeling depressed or under stress. Today in our society, food is abundant, so it's easy for us to have access to food and eat without thinking about it. Mindless eating occurs when we're distracted by things in our daily lives, such as watching TV, if we're working on our computer while we're eating, or driving and eating. Food is also used as a coping mechanism when we aren't hungry, but rather when we're feeling emotions such as stress, boredom, anger, or sadness. This lack of awareness leads to unwanted weight gain and feelings of guilt. If you find that you're overeating when you're stressed, it can be really helpful to slow down and stop what you're doing when the urge to eat arises. In these moments, you can try writing down your feelings to figure out what's really bothering you. And this can help you determine whether you need food to feel better if you're physically hungry, or if you're eating out of emotional hunger, and if there's something else that you can do to kind of cope with what you're feeling and dealing with. So now we're going to talk about emotional eating. So according to the Mayo Clinic, emotional eating is defined as eating in a way to suppress or soothe negative emotions. So as I mentioned before, these emotions can be stress, anger, fear, sadness, boredom, loneliness. Major life events, or typically the occurrences of daily life, can trigger these negative emotions that lead us to eat emotionally. Emotional distress can also cause impulsive behaviors that can lead to binge eating, which is consuming whatever is convenient and without enjoyment. Our emotions can become so closely tied to our eating habits that when you're feeling stressed or upset, you may automatically reach for your favorite comfort food or treat without even actually thinking about what you're doing. This can lead to the emotional eating cycle. So emotions trigger you to overeat. So this could be a stressful day at work, feeling sad about a breakup, financial stress. So these emotions cause you to overeat, and then you start to beat yourself up and you experience guilt for binging on these foods. And then this guilt and shame causes you to overeat because of your emotions again. So it's just a constant cycle. So what can help is if we learn the difference between physical and emotional hunger. So it takes practice, but I've listed some ways that you can help identify if what you're experiencing is physical hunger or emotional hunger. So typically, when you're experiencing emotional hunger, it comes on suddenly. When compared to physical hunger, it's more of a gradual onset. When you're eating to fill an emotional need or void, You may crave a specific food, so ice cream, and that food may be the only thing that will meet your need. But when you're physically hungry, you're more open to a variety of options. Emotional hunger feels like it needs to be satisfied instantly with the food you're craving, whereas physical hunger, you can wait until you can get a meal or a food. You may continue to eat well beyond the point of physical fullness when using food to address an emotional need, versus physical hunger, you're much more likely to be able to stop when you're full. Emotional eating is significantly more likely to result in feelings of guilt than when you're eating to satisfy physical hunger. So one of the best tactics for curbing emotional eating is to use the HALT technique. So this is a series of questions that you can ask yourself when you feel like eating. So ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? If you're hungry, then by all means, eat. Satisfy your needs, give yourself energy, and enjoy your meal. Choose something to nourish and satisfy that physical hunger. But if it's not a physical hunger and you realize that you're just using food as a way to cope with your emotions, that's okay. Give yourself grace and try and find another way to cope with how you're feeling without using food. So this may be going for a walk, calling a friend, or taking a nap. So mindless eating is when we aren't fully aware or appreciating each bite of food as we eat. We usually end up taking more and more bites, and this often leads to the point of feeling uncomfortably full. As I mentioned earlier, mindless eating can occur at any time the brain is distracted and when we're not aware of how much food is actually being consumed. So there are 5 factors that contribute to mindless eating. So the first is disinhibition, so eating when we're not hungry. The second is distracted eating, so when we're sidetracked by a conversation, watching TV, or another distraction. Lack of awareness, so it's easy to overeat when you don't realize how much food you're consuming, such as when you're eating directly out of a bag or container instead of measuring out your portion sizes. Emotional eating. Like we mentioned previously, emotions play a large role in mindless eating, as we tend to turn to food for comfort when we're feeling sad or bored. So paying attention to your emotions and trying to find other ways to handle them instead of using food. And then external reasons. So this could be if you're watching TV or if you're driving down the road and you see a billboard or a commercial comes on promoting a food. So this can also contribute to mindless eating. So to combat mindless eating, we want to practice mindful eating. So mindful eating is an approach to food that focuses on the individual's sensual awareness of the food and their experience of the food. So it has less to do with how many calories, how many carbohydrates, fats, or proteins we're eating. And I just want to point out that the purpose of mindful eating is not in weight loss, although some studies do suggest that with people who adopt this style of eating, it's highly likely that you will have weight loss. The attention is instead to help the individuals savor the moment and the food and encourages full presence for the eating experience. So mindfulness is process-oriented rather than an outcome-driven behavior. So instead of restricting intake, it encourages the individual to focus on appreciating the experience of food and meal times. So the person eating chooses what to eat and how much to consume. So it's not coincidental that with the mindful eating approach, a person's choices are often to eat less, savor the experience more, and select foods consistent with desirable health benefits. So foods that are going to make you feel better and nourish your body, versus then eating out of emotions. You're typically going to choose something that's a comfort food that may not have these desirable health benefits. So studies suggest that mindful eating is highly associated with weight loss. However, future studies will be necessary to examine the correlation. So diets for weight loss are usually successful in the short term, but many tend to fail over time. This is because diets tend to focus on rules of eating. So what to eat, how much to eat, and what not to eat. And then with intended measurements of specific outcomes. So for diets to be successful, one must stick to the diet plan. So this is the difference between mindless and conscious eating. The difference with mindful eating is that it's not about rules or guidelines, but instead about the individual experience. So not one person is going to have the same experience with the same food every single time. The idea of mindful eating is for people to have their own experiences and be fully present in the moment while having them. So this slide is a lesson on mindful eating developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He gave the raisin meditation to his students as a sensory experience of being mindful. So during my undergraduate studies, we actually did this experience with a grape. And you can try it with any food, but the goal is to really fully experience the food and be completely present in the moment without distractions. So you want to pretend that you've never experienced this food before, so you don't have any preconceived judgments, fears, or expectations. You want it to be completely new to you. So we're going to be sending out the slideshow to you all after the presentation. So I definitely recommend you take the time to try this exercise with a grape, a raisin, any piece of food you want to try the mindful eating lesson. So tips for mindful eating. So when we're practicing mindful eating, we really want to pay attention to what is occurring in the present moment without any judgment. So these are kind of some ways to practice becoming a mindful eater. So first of all, you want to be present in the moment. No judgment. Enjoy the food that you're eating. What does it taste like? What does it smell like? Slow down when you're eating your meals. It can take up to 20 minutes before you realize you're full. So take the time to truly taste and enjoy and savor each bite of your food. Using the Kabat-Zinn mindful eating exercise during your meals to help pause and experience each bite. Ask yourself where the food comes from that you're eating. Consider how some vegetables grow from the ground and some may have been picked from a vine. You want to eliminate distractions. So create a healthy environment by eliminating distractions. So that may be turning off your TV, placing your phone in another room, and sitting down at the glass of water, maybe turning on, your favorite music, and make the experience an enjoyable one to help eliminate the risk of overeating or mindless eating. And then consider your feelings when you're eating. Ask yourself, am I eating because I'm hungry, or am I eating because I'm sad, anxious, or lonely? If you're physically hungry, by all means eat. But if, like I said, you're eating out of emotions, ask yourself if food is what you need or if there's something else that can make you feel better. And then you want to pay attention to your hunger cues. So you can use the hunger and fullness scale, which I'm going to talk about next, to help you determine if you're actually hungry or if you're still satisfied from your previous meal. So the hunger and fullness scale is a tool that's used to help you increase awareness of your hunger levels and to help you choose the right times for you to eat and when to stop eating at a time that is right for your body. So when you're learning to use your body's cues to help you decide how much to eat, referring to the scale can make it easier to identify how your body feels so that you know when to eat and when you've had enough. Each level of hunger and fullness is ranked with a number and gives you an example of how you might feel when you're at this level. I just want to point out that every person's body is unique and we are all individual, and how you feel when you're ready to eat is probably different from someone else. So the first time you apply the scale, it can be helpful to be in an environment free from distractions where you can focus on your body and pay attention to how it feels with each bite and each moment, and eat slowly with intention. So you won't be assigning numbers and thinking about the chart forever, but learning to listen to your body's cues takes a conscious effort in the beginning, especially if we've been following a diet, if we've been eating distracted and mindlessly for quite some time. So it can be difficult to kind of learn how to listen to your hunger and fullness cues. So applying the hunger scale. So first of all, you want to honor your hunger and keep your body fed when you're physically hungry. So this means listening, engaging where you are on the hunger scale. Using the scale when you're thinking about eating. So you want to ask yourself where you're falling from completely empty to neutral to so full that you feel physically ill. The first step is becoming attuned to our innate hunger and fullness cues, is to identify your hunger level before eating. So when you're starting to think about food or the time you've set aside to eat is getting close, start checking in. And if you're just beginning to figure out what your hunger and fullness cues look like, it can be helpful to pull up the hunger and fullness scale. So try to figure out what kind of sensations your body's feeling and decide where on the scale you're falling in that moment. If possible, try to make or plan your food around the hunger levels 3 or 4. So at this stage, you may be starting to feel hungry enough and be able to decide what it is you actually feel like eating. So once you do this, once you've got your meal, once you've gone to pick it up, once you prepared it, you may be at a level 2 and 3 when you actually have food on your plate. And so that way you'll be ready to eat and enjoy your meal. However, this is how it works in a perfect world. So there's no right or wrong time to eat, since every meal, every day, everyone's circumstances are very different. So using the scale to help you understand and identify that the way that your body feels and tells you your hunger level. So the second step is the check-in point. When half your food is gone, you should take a moment to kind of feel the sensations in your body. Like I mentioned earlier, it can take about 20 minutes to determine if you're full. So take your time while you're eating, taste your food, enjoy every bite, and then ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I full? How much more do I think I need to eat before I'll be completely full and satisfied? This is a good opportunity to determine how the food you're eating tastes. So, are you craving a new sensation? This can be a great way to make sure that your meal is satisfying you and meets your satiety level. So if you're eating a taco and it's not tasting good anymore and you're starting to feel like you want a sweet treat, try switching to a piece of chocolate, a banana, whatever it is that new craving is. So this way, if you find that your sweet tooth or at the end of the meal when you need something sweet takes you to a level 9 of uncomfortable fullness because you wait to satisfy it until the end of your meal, this strategy can help you figure out if we can kind of eliminate getting to that uncomfortable fullness. So the third step is feeling and honoring your fullness. Learning how to cue in and identify your hunger can help remove the discomfort after eating so that you feel energized and so you're ready to continue on with your day. So ideally, you would want to stop eating at a level 7, which is feeling comfortable, full, and content with your body. And be mindful of the physiological signals that tell you that you're no longer hungry. I know a lot of us growing up, for me, my parents were always like, all right, clean plate club, eat everything on your plate. But get rid of the idea that you need to eat until your plate is clean. If we're eating out, especially, the serving sizes can be a lot bigger than we actually need. So stopping in the middle of a meal for satiety and taste check can kind of help us combat that need to eat until your entire plate is empty. You can ask yourself, am I hungry enough to go on? Am I satisfied? Or is the food even enjoyable enough to merit any more bites? Or am I just eating because the food is there? It's definitely okay to end some meals feeling too full because the food you're eating was so good. But if you're finding that this happens frequently, then maybe it's time to do some inner work and see if there's something else going on that leads you to frequently overeat. Like I said earlier, if you're eating your entire meal, but then at the end you're feeling like you need something sweet, and then after you eat your dessert, you're feeling uncomfortably full. It's the middle of the day, you can't work anymore. Maybe we need to stop earlier with our meal, have our treat, and then assess our fullness. If you end your meal before you're comfortably full, however, this could be a reason why you feel hungry an hour or two after you eat. Having a snack for times like these can help you for dropping into those lower levels of the hunger scale, which can cause us to feel hangry, dizzy, lightheaded, or those other symptoms of extreme hunger. If you constantly feel like you need to eat 1 or 2 hours after a meal, this can be an indication that you're not eating enough during your meals and you may need to eat more. So with our meals, we want to make sure we are meeting our satiety. So this can be including a protein, a carbohydrate, and vegetables. So that's our healthy plate method. And by following this method, we can kind of make sure we're getting everything we need to keep us satisfied and nourish our bodies and keep us full. So in conclusion, the hunger scale by no means is meant to be a rule book. Instead, look at it as a guide to help you explore how your body feels when you should be reaching for a snack, when you're sitting down to eat, or when you're putting down the fork. Your body has an internal regulating system to inform you when it needs fuel and when it's had enough. So by learning to become attuned with our hunger and fullness cues and using the scale, you can feel confident in eating without a diet plan. You can nourish your body with the amount of energy it needs at any given time. And then also in doing this, it can help us to maintain our body's healthy set point weight. So that's all I have. And here's the QR code, but does anybody have any questions? Don't see any, so okay. Thank you guys for coming. John put the link in the chat, and then here's the QR code, and then we will be sending out the presentation so you guys have all the information. All right, thank you.